Hello there, everybody. Thought I'd do a tag video today, actually. I haven't done much in the last couple of weeks, so I thought I would do a tag video. Now, I think I may have done this one before. I've certainly recognised a couple of the questions. I think it might have been called something else when I did it. But, yeah, there's 16 questions in all. I've found this tag on Rowena Cravenheart and Sanny's, the Swedish Elder Goth's channels. And go check them out. They're really cool people. Okay, so question 1. I like cheesy romance films. True or false? I don't like cheesy romance films, so that would be false. I occasionally might like one here and there for something that's in the movie, but as a genre, no, not as a rule. Number 2, always remember to wash makeup off before going to bed. Well, true, of course. Who doesn't do that? No, the times I've worn makeup in the past, I have always washed it off before going to bed. So that's true. Number 3, I sleep with plushies. Afraid not, so that's false. I used to as a kid, obviously. Well, not obviously, I guess, but I did used to as a kid. But I haven't done so for many years, and it's kind of sad, really, when you think about it. That, you know, we grow out of that a little bit, or at least I did. Maybe it's not growing out of, maybe I just chose not to at some point. Wear non-black pajamas. I don't wear pajamas. I either wear the clothes that I've been wearing in the day, excuse me, if it's cold, or I just wear underwear to bed, and I apologise for that image. But no, well, yes, I suppose I wear non-black pajamas, that's true, because I don't wear any. Number 5, listen to a disbanded boy band. False in the traditional sense of what a boy band is. I mean, I don't listen to Take That or what are some others? I can't think of any others at the moment. But yeah, those bands where you got a couple of young blokes sort of dancing in sequence or in a regimented fashion in a line and singing some awful crap about something. No, I don't listen to stuff like that. Number 6, Andrew Eldritch is overrated. Now, this is one of the questions I was asked before, and I said, well, he's just a man, so, you know, pretty much fuck him. He's got no right to be overrated if he is. However, I think that he probably is overrated a little bit, but then every celebrity is overrated. I haven't heard much of Sisters of Mercy myself, but I like what I have heard. And Is he overrated? Yes. He's got a persona, hasn't he? I mean, if he's like that in real life, he'd be a pretty difficult guy to deal with, I would imagine. But if it's just a stage persona, then that's fine. Is he overrated? Almost certainly. But I don't think that matters. I think it comes with being a celebrity, especially within a music genre that's sort of defined by one's presence and attitude, and to an extent being overrated. So, is Andrew Eldritch overrated? True, but I don't think it matters that much. Number 7, do I like vampires? Yes, that would be true. Be it Victorian vampires or earlier, or more modern vampires like in Blade series of films with Wesley Snipes. I always thought it was interesting in the Victorian vampire stuff, and again earlier, that it was always the upper classes that became vampires. Like, you never, or at least very rarely, saw a street urchin as a vampire, or something like that. I think that says a lot about how the relationship between the classes at that time. As I say, the more modern ones, like in Blade, they've kind of lost that a bit and kind of... Well, it is still there a little bit because the vampires kind of see themselves as a class above everybody else. So there is definitely a class element to it, which I find interesting, as well as just, them being supernatural beings. Would I want to be one? Is a natural question that flows from that, even though it's not one of the questions. But would I want to be one? Yes, I think so. Well, yes, you get to live forever, but you usually die pretty horribly. So, maybe not. So yes, I like vampires. Number 8, I don't like clubs. Excuse me. This is true for the most part. There aren't many clubs that I like. I used to like a club called TJ's in a town where I used to drink. It was a town at the time. I think it is. It's a city now. But called Newport in South Wales. It was a very alternative club. You had everything from metalheads to goths to pretty much every alternative type of lifestyle you can imagine going on there. It was awesome. But it closed, unfortunately. And before it did close, it went downhill a little bit. Well, not so much downhill, but it got quieter. And it wasn't what it was in the sort of the late 90s, which was, for me anyway, it was its heyday. I mean, it had been around for many years before that, but I sort of enjoyed it most, if you like, in the late 90s, early 2000s. There are other clubs, or there were, in Newport, but they were more sort of dancey clubs, which I don't like. But they seem, when people say the word club, that's usually what they mean, and I don't like that sort of club. I've been to a handful of alternative clubs around the country and enjoyed them. TJ's was very much the CBGB's analogue of the area, if you will. But excuse me. But yes, so do I like clubs? I like alternative clubs, but I don't, as a rule, like dancey clubs much. They're too loud and too busy, too cramped. Am I dating a goth? Unfortunately, that's false. I know that there's this thing, are goth women a fetish now? Well, have they always been? Perhaps to some people they are. I don't think so. What I see in the goth culture goes beyond the stereotype and the outward appearance, if you like. It's more to do with the individuality and the beauty and the inner beauty as well of goth women. And they're usually rather intelligent, at least the ones that, well, I say at least the ones that I've met, but I would imagine it attracts a certain type of person. But yes, I think goth women are very beautiful. I would love to be dating a goth, but unfortunately I am not. So that's that. Number 10, graveyards. I guess this means I love graveyards. So that would be true. Excuse me, again. I do love graveyards. I think they're very beautiful, very tranquil places. In fact, one of the first videos I put on the channel was a slideshow of photographs of a graveyard that I visited near Brecon in South Wales, and it was amazing. I mean, some of the trees there were either just under or just over 1,000 years old, and still alive. And just the whole air of the place was unbelievable. And like seeing the gravestones and everything, and the amount of respect that fills you with, or me anyway. I think you have to have respect for where you are when you're in a graveyard, I think. They're sacred places, But I remember actually staying virtually in a graveyard many years ago. A friend of mine had a house, or was renting. Yeah, it was renting a house on the edge of a church graveyard, and it was beautiful. I have to say, it was very tranquil, very beautiful, very peaceful, and it certainly wasn't scary. Let's put it that way. It was a beautiful evening. Blood equals queasy, I've put here. I guess it's blood makes me queasy. That would be false. Blood doesn't make me queasy. If I cut myself so it's my own blood, I often feel like a sharp pinch or an electric shock, and my heart rate goes up for a split second, but As for queasy, no, it's irritating because it's usually hell to clean up. If there's a lot of it, it can make me feel a little concerned. But I'm guessing this refers to the sight of blood. But no, certainly the sight of blood doesn't make... Well, nothing to do with blood makes me queasy. As for watching films with blood in them, no, I'm fine with that. I think it can be a very powerful aesthetic if used correctly. It can also be kind of cheap if used poorly. But what makes me feel more queasy, I think, really, is puke. Like, if there's a film and, like, there's gratuitous puking, something like Brain Dead, or, I think it's called Dead Alive in some countries. It's one of Peter Jackson's earliest films. Yes, that Peter Jackson that did The Lord of the Rings. And that's pretty gross. But blood in and of itself, no. It does not make me queasy. That would be false. Number 12, spiders! Exclamation mark. I guess this means, do I like spiders? Or am I afraid of spiders? If it's am I afraid of spiders, no. I have a strange reaction to spiders. I was doing something outside recently and I saw a spider of some size and I froze. I didn't feel fear exactly. It was more ancient than that. It was kind of almost an instinct, something from when we lived up trees and everything was predatory, or a lot of things were, and it made me wonder, it's the chances this spider could kill me in this country are almost non-existent. And yet I had this quite a strong reaction to it. And it makes me wonder why that is. That's my feeling, I guess. Also, it depends on the context. I mean, if I'm in somewhere where I really don't expect the spider to be and a large one pops up, it will shock me. But do I fear spiders as a species? No, I don't. I think they're quite beautiful and admirable, actually. Number 13, haunted houses. So I'm guessing, would I like to stay in a haunted house? I have done. I used to visit some friends of mine again in Newport. And I was sleeping there one night. Everybody else was asleep, and somebody walked through the door and walked across the room. It wasn't the kind of thing you would see by looking directly at it. It was more of a corner of the eye thing. And I spoke to people afterwards, and they'd had the same experience. Would I like to stay in a a proper haunted house, like a haunted hospital or an asylum or something like that overnight? I don't know, maybe. Again, it would depend on the situation, though. And also, it depends what you consider a haunting to be. I mean, I don't think it's the same thing every time. Sometimes can it be like the energy or the spirit, if you like, of a person? I think that can happen sometimes. Can it be like a clump of very intense emotions surrounding, for example, a tragic event that then takes on a kind of a physical form so that we can better relate to it. I think that's probably true as well. So, in a sense, then, it depends what you mean by haunted. And that's something I could talk about at length, but I'll leave it there, I think. But yes, haunted houses. I've slept in one. Would I sleep in a big old Gothic one? Depends. Also, I used to drink in a very haunted pub. A lot of things had been seen there by various people. I never saw anything myself, but certainly some of the upstairs rooms were. You could feel the trace of something, like Scatman Crothers says in The Shining, like when somebody burns toast, you know. It leaves a trace behind. That kind of scenario. Number 14. Do I browse Hot Topic? That would be false. We don't have Hot Topic here. The closest we have is something called Blue Banana. I suppose that would be analogous to something like Hot Topic. In fact, I had a piercing done at Blue Banana many moons ago. I had a tongue piercing, kept it in for a number of years. But yes, some people may be surprised that I'm doing this tag at all, because I'm not what you would think of as a terrible, stereotypical goth. I certainly don't dress the part, and that's because I'm the wrong shape, unfortunately. I'm just under 6 feet tall and stocky, so it's hard to get clothes, goth-like clothes that would suit my frame, unfortunately. But if I could, I would wear the long flowing stuff. But and I have tried, but it doesn't necessarily suit me that well. But do I browse Hot Topic? No. I've been online to their website once or twice looking at band t-shirts. But no, I don't browse Hot Topic. That would be false. I've read Dracula. This too is false. I started reading it a couple of times actually, but I find it hard to read books that are basically a series of diary entries. Although, I did find it hard at one time. I might go back to it now and I might be able to read it easier. But for me, it can feel very disjointed. That style of writing. So yeah, I haven't read it. I got it free actually. I managed to find it for free on Kindle, and started reading it. But because of the style, I didn't get on with it. I'm more attracted to authors like Poe or H.P. Lovecraft. And I know Lovecraft has got a little bit of a bad reputation nowadays for, things like racism and what have you. But if you look at that time, a lot of the thoughts expressed in his work were the prevailing thoughts of people that he would have known. So I don't hold that against the work. I mean, you can hold it against the time, if you like. I don't think there's much point. I think we've moved on past that time now. So what's the point in it? Aside from, what you forget is likely to, recur. But I think, yes, I think it's important that it's remembered, but, the social views of that time, but I don't think it should necessarily be held against the work, because the work is a snapshot, as writing and art in general often is, of the time that it was made. So, but yes, I'm more into Poe and Lovecraft than Bram Stoker's Dracula. And the final question. Bela Lugosi's Dead is a long and boring song. Obviously it's by Bauhaus, and I like Bauhaus. I had a copy of Crackle for quite some time. I don't know what happened to it. But it's an album that I like. It's a band that I like. Bela Lugosi's Dead, long and boring. Well, it's like Mozart said when somebody said to him that there were too many notes in something that he'd written, and he said there aren't too many or too few. There were as many as required. I think that was Mozart anyway, and that's Bela Lugosi's Dead for me. Yes, it's long, but it's no longer than it needs to be, and I don't find it particularly boring. That's the thing. Even though I don't look like a goth, I like some of the music. I like the aesthetic. I like the individuality of it. And I like the darkness of it. I'm attracted to darker things in life. The art, the literature of Goth is very beautiful to me. Okay, well, that has been what are we calling it? The Goth True or False tag, my version of. I hope you enjoyed it, and please like, share, comment and subscribe, all that other good stuff. Please feel free to check out Rowena Cravenheart and Sanna's The Elder Goth's channels. They're both very cool people. But yeah, I'm never quite sure how to end videos, so I'll just say, as I often do, thank you very much for watching, and bye for now.